I wanted to make a short video without going into other subjects and or dragging on for ages and just get to the point, which basically is I've made lots of complaints to the Electoral Commission, and some people might think that I was really having to be quite persuasive with the arguments or quite intricate, and it was really pushing the boundaries of the legislation to try and make the claims against certain MPs who are running for election, or local councils, councillors, and the government themselves, with the essential rule of the law that, firstly, the government staff and the government, whether it's central government or local councils, aren't allowed to use those resources to affect the outcome of elections in the voting. They only facilitate it, right? It has to be candidates, their agents, and the political parties. And, all their spending is meant to be accounted for. And it's questionable about what influence the public can have donating resources, advertising, and other assistance if it's not officially recorded as for that purpose. If you write a sign which is for the purpose of opposing or supporting a certain candidate, and you're assisting and helping, that material is being created in a certain class, and it falls into a tax band, and also it's aiding certain candidates, and the Conservative Party latched on to the independent campaigns such as Stop ULEZ to help themselves in the London election, when it all wasn't accounted for through the books, but it was a very large force of influence. That's one part of it. And local councils, the other part is local councils now are definitely engaging in influencer advertising and promo to affect the electors in their, not just voting for councillors, but in supporting their cause, in supporting their projects, matters that have to be voted on in the council chamber, and put through, whether you would object to it or not, right? And the council is advertising and pushing pro their projects. That they're trying to get people to go along with their projects and make it look like everyone supports their projects through advertising, which, and they're also giving entertainment out as well, which is trying to get young people along with all the regeneration, and we'll get onto that now. So the best example I can give is with Jacob Rees-Mogg is the example, but there's a lot of local councils who are pretty much doing the same through their own social media. It's really social media that's done it, but it's not something where, this legislation and laws are behind the times and they're out of date. It's just that it's become very easily for the parties, candidates, councils, government to become more corrupt, because it's very easy. And also they like to the culture, but it doesn't really, that's not important. It could have been in the 1920s with radio. It could have been in the it could have been the old telegram machines. It could have been the radio. It could have been television, and likely some of those things we'll find when we look into it may break the law. But at least what we can say is, at least the BBC, through their golden period, were at least trying to make it look legitimate. They were trying to make it look controlled. They were trying to claim there were loads of rules. They were trying to say that it's fair. And they were trying to have politicians on and say, right, I'm just interviewing you, answer the questions, right? They were at least pretending that there was some kind of legitimacy to it and sensibility to it. But now they're not even pretending. Now it's almost kind of like, if you think of it like, sweets and candy, sneaking the odd candy or whatever, but trying to have some kind of sense of respect, self-dignity and respect. You don't steal but now the candy's available everywhere. In fact, we've been flooded with it. They can't resist. And maybe candy's a bad analogy, but I'm using the candy as an analogy for the social media, because I know that candy's nothing like social media, but at least, with the radio and with the television and with, the telegram machines and with the newspapers, it was a bit more, you had to go out of your way to do it, to get it, to pay for it and order it. Now with the social media, so to say, at your fingertips, right? It's a lot easier to abuse it and very hard to resist. And they're just literally at their fingertips. That's it. And it's still having the same, if not more, influence. And whether that influence is very negative or very positive swing, it doesn't really matter, the fact that they can't resist it and it's at their fingertips. And it has actually acted detrimentally for Rees Mogg, for example. He lost. So it's like gambling. Gambling's very addictive. We shouldn't do it. But, you can win or you can lose. And Rees Mogg lost. But that's how addictive gambling can be. And when it becomes at your fingertips now, like with the National Lottery and all these online games and so forth, they've even tried to turn gambling, which is meant to be something that's not good, by using the National Lottery and saying, it's for charity, then everyone's engaging in it. It's still gambling, even though if they say it's for charitable cause, they end up perverting everything. They're making out it's for a good cause, but I don't necessarily, rather than ripping everyone off with inflation and everything else, if people had lots of money spare, people would give to charities anyway in their local areas. You don't need these big organisations. We'll deal with the charity. We'll run the charitable causes. We'll do they want a monopoly on charity. Everyone could just, give wherever their local areas are and do things for each other. I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that, or whatever, if they had the spare money. But they want to take the money off us so we don't have money. And then they want to be the ones who direct it and use it, for whatever causes. But that's just, see, I can't stay on the subject. I always end up going off on a tangent. But it's just basically, my point there was the term is at your fingertips, right? At your fingertips. So the social media effect now is at their fingertips, but they're not going to be doing it, right? Now, this act, right, is called, it's William III, right? It's 1695, right? So it's a William III Act. So it's all to do with the Glorious Revolution, right? It's 1695 to 1696. It's called an Act for Preventing Charge and Expense in Elections of Members to Serve in Parliament, right? And this Act was just a couple of years after the 1688 Bill of Rights. And one major clause, an important clause of that 1688 Bill of Rights, is that elections ought to be free, right? That, you don't pay to vote or to go and vote. And also, the candidates aren't really meant to pay money either. And now they've been doing that whole thing to put people off or scare people standing, like, the Mayor of London, said, if you don't get 5%, you got to pay £50,000 or whatever, or £5,000 deposit or whatever. Ironically, they say you've got to pay that afterwards if you don't get the 5%, which, that's gambling, isn't it? I mean, that's almost like a lottery. That's almost like a gamble. Since when is an election ever supposed to be a lottery, like a gamble? You're gambling on money. They're saying, put £5,000 on the table for Mayor of London or whatever. And if you win, you get your money back. That's like getting a scratch card and winning £5 when it costs £5, right? How do you know how many people are going to vote for you? Well, apparently they do know this, right? Because of the newspapers running the polls all the time. The newspapers are constantly doing these so-called polls and all these non-profits are doing these polls and all these other organisations are polling. So apparently it's known. It's like a gauge. And when an event kicks off, like, an event in the newspapers, the gauge can swing one way. This is events. This is having the power over incidents, If some terrorist puts a bomb on the motorway in a briefcase, it can swing the gauge one way, against Northern Ireland or something. This is the thing to do with controlling public opinion, evidence of public opinion. When you're petitioning, you're gathering evidence of public opinion, and then you submit it to Parliament. If there's a serious accident or incident, could be staged, we don't know, but if a terrorist blew up a train, let's say, or a signal failure, and 1,000 people died on a train, then if they're voting on road safety, everyone's going to vote in favour of it, so the incident would sway it, right? Now, that is the ability to sway public opinion, which is what the newspapers do all the time. But they've got now a constant gauge, right? A needle, like a constant needle, right? And it's moving all the time like a detector. So it's almost like, but what they're doing is they're still running elections. So they're saying if you turn up and vote on this certain day, right, then that sticks, that that's who's going to be in control of making the laws up for the government. But the public opinion apparently is swaying all the time, and they're measuring it now all the time and showing you the gauge. So it's effectively like they're doing all these stunts. We'll call them stunts, right? Because it's public, anything that sways voting. Let me describe it this way. If this is like an equation, right? If anything that sways public opinion in the voting polls is regarded as Class E materials, right, with the intent to affect voting, and that's the outcome of these polls, right, then that's unlawful, right? It's not, it's all meant to be, the money that goes into it is all meant to be accounted for either of the parties, right? So that needle constantly being on, anything that influences that needle in the polling, when you go in to vote, that's influencing the election, and that's what's meant to be banned in law, particularly coming from MPs and the government and local councils, right? But also from political parties and candidates, unless they're paying for it, right? But they're not paying for these newspaper polls. They're volunteering to do them, but it's Class E. So all that's illegal because it's private entities who are engaging in Class E materials, which is illegal. They're only supposed to tell you that there's an election on, right? And then after you vote, they're supposed to tell you the outcome, right? So, but instead, they've now created like a detector, like a metal detector, right? But a needle for political popularity, which is actually illegal. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was, that was his lifeline to see how he was doing. But really, what they're doing is they're all trying to get the needle to go in their favour, and they want it to be the most in their favour on polling day, and then it's almost like locking it into place, because when everyone turns up to vote, it's almost like pushing the button down and then it locks it. So if you've got a needle swinging left and right, it's almost like one of those games when you say, okay, you've got to press, it's like, when you've got a game, right, and you've got to press the button at the right time, right? If you press the button, when the needle is, at the correct number, you win that prize that the number's pointing at. So the needle's constantly swinging, right? And then when they hit the button, then that's where the needle stays. So they're doing everything they can to get the needle to go the most in their favour on voting day. And then that's it. Then whatever it's pointing at, like, if it's almost like, it's almost like on the casino wheel, like on the roulette, is it going to land in red or black? Right? It's almost like Tory or Conservative, then that's where it sticks at. And then they go into government, like now it was Labour and it's Starmer, right? So, but if you know where the needle is at every time, right, and you're the government, and you say, oh, I'm going to make all these laws and do all these things, right? And the needle swings your way, and then everyone hits the button, and then it stops there, and then Starmer gets in, and then he's in. And then now he's doing all the things opposite to what he said he was going to do. And then the needle's swinging away from him now, but he's locked in place because he managed to get in, right? And now he doesn't have to do anything that he said to get the needle to where he wanted it to be to get in. Because he's locked in for a period. And this is the thing. So this swinging needle, if it goes away from him, why don't they just say, oh, hit the button now? Well, so no, we don't hit the button when we say we hit the button, which is, when we call it, or in these periods. But there's not meant to be a detector or needle there, because the thing is, it's actually affecting people's votes as well, because, and also, if any news program was to say something like, oh, if they were to make an announcement like, or John Simpkins is going to be the next Prime Minister, if Starmer resigns, then that's a forecast. They're forecasting. Casting is magic, casting a spell. You're casting it. And then everyone it absorbs that and takes it on, right? They're actually dictating what it's going to be, which is actually unlawful, because it's a little bit like defamation. When you use the word defamation, it's meant to be illegal because it harms your reputation, and then, you might lose money or friends or whatever. People sue for that. But when they say, oh, if Starmer, resigns or loses his place, then they say, oh, this other person is guaranteed to be Prime Minister. How are they guaranteed to be? The ministers vote on it. They could vote either way. No one's guaranteed to be anything, right? When they say that, it's the opposite of defamation. When you defame someone, right, you're actually lowering their reputation, and they're going to lose, right, because you're affecting the outcome. The opposite of defamation is actually inflammation. So if they say, oh, well, if this guy, leaves government, then this other person, well, it's going to be whatever, they're actually claiming that someone else, it is going to be them. And that's the opposite of defamation, which means that it's fake prediction, it's fake casting, because no one's guaranteed to be anything, because they vote on it, and they can vote anyway. And also, we can vote as well. Anything can change at any time. But when they say that, they're claiming that it's actually a lie. It's a false claim, because no one is guaranteed to be anything in the government, right? And it's actually, it's illegal. And that's how you understand it in a model. We've got defamation, right? And that's criminal. But surely the opposite of defamation, because it's false. You're saying the reason that defamation is illegal is that it's a statement that hasn't been proved to be true, that harms a reputation. Well, what's the opposite of that? You say something that isn't true, that's going to actually assist their reputation. But it's not true. You can't say this person's going to be Prime Minister, guaranteed, if this person steps down, because they're not guaranteed. No one knows. It's up to the MPs. So it's actually false. It is false. It's an opposite of defamation, a false statement which is going to assist someone politically. And when it's affecting politics, even the voting of MPs, not just the voting of us when we got the ballot box, remember, MPs vote. So if a newspaper says, oh, so-and-so is going to be guaranteed to be the next Prime Minister, that's going to affect the voting of MPs. It is illegal, and they've got carried away with themselves, and all of the newspapers, forget Rebecca Brooks, they need to be prosecuted by the Crown Prosecution Service and arrested for Class E materials and all of the offences under the Representation of the People Act. It's all criminal. Now, when it comes to Mogg, it's explicit now. This act here that I've said, this act, what is special about this act is that the whole subject of elections, right? In this act, it's explained and it uses some fuller terms, complete examples that they haven't been changed. It's not changed in modern law. It's not repealed. It's not redacted. It's not changed. It's only abbreviated. They abbreviate it to make it less lengthy, to make it's more of a notation, but it refers to and still means the same thing, because it's the same as treating. There are entire books of fines which have been done against candidates in elections to do with like buying someone a drink or treating them for a vote or whatever. But what it's actually about is this act, and this is what it is. This is what the Representation of the People Acts come from. This is the law that they're based on and what they come from. And then the election propaganda for the radio and television and broadcasting, it is one principle, and the principle is anything that affects the outcome of an election, or treating people for votes, or rewarding them for votes. Now, if you can find this on the internet, right, you can search for this yourself. I'm not gonna read the entire act out. I've told you which act it is. You can find it. But here it is, right? And again, this video has gone on far too much longer than I wanted, because I wanted to just focus on this part of it, right? But it's impossible for me to talk about it without, I'm just a type of person who tries to put it in context to associated things around it, right? It is entertainment as well. It's not just buying people drinks or treating them, right? If you are going to be in an election, and if you are going to run an election, or even if you are an MP, right, you're not meant to be entertaining people. When you turn up on the BBC, right, you're there to answer questions, right? If the Prime Minister is there, Mr. Starmer, could you tell me why you've raised the income tax by 5%? Or, Mr. Starmer, can you tell us why, you've why you've tripled the company's house filing costs? It costs £13 to literally for you to send your own accounts in and update them on the system. It was £13 for the privilege of, you giving the government data. Why have you tripled that amount of money, right? Or why have you cut the old people's winter fuel allowance, Mr. Starmer? He answers questions. He's there because he's got the privilege of the spending of his party on his election campaign, and then you voted for him, and now he's an MP, and now he gets paid by the taxpayer to be driven around and flown around on planes and then turn up in TV studios, and then he's got the privilege of answering those questions to the television, right? And if the taxpayers' funding is cut off, he no longer can have a chauffeur to drive him to the TV studio and be on TV, right? Okay? Now, the problem is that Jacob Rees-Mogg, right, he was an MP, a member of Parliament. Forget the cabinet. Forget member of the cabinet, the government, the local council, right? He's an MP. He's an elected MP serving the public, a member of the Parliament of England. That is working in government. I don't care if he's in the cabinet or not. He's a member of the Parliament of England with an office, and an office in his constituency. It's a surgery. Members of the public going to see him with their local problems into his surgery, like a GP, and he goes into Parliament and speaks on their behalf and performs motions and actions for political matters, their political problems, political issues, which he can represent them in, right? Like an advocate. He's working for the government, right? And it's an elected position. Now, he does get money for that, right? He gets money for it. And he's meant to do that, even though he's a Conservative. He's meant to be selfless in the representation of his electorate who go into the surgery. You can't have a doctor who won't treat you because you're a Tory or Labour. The doctor cannot have a political preference when you go into the surgery, right? Now, Rees Mogg got given a job on GB News, right? Now, he got a hell of a lot of money for it. Hundreds of thousands of pounds, right, for doing this show. And Ofcom claimed that, even though it was called GB News and they won a news award, they claimed that it wasn't a news programme, right? Doesn't matter whether it's a news programme or not. There's no such thing. No criteria of programme exists in law. None, right? It says clearly anything which is broadcast which can affect the outcome of elections or has the potential even to affect the outcome of an election, right? Or influence the electors in their voting. Doesn't matter what programme it is. It could be Funhouse, Pat Sharp. It could be, astronauts in space. It could be David Attenborough. It could be, Matt Hancock. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Whatever. Doesn't matter. There's no such thing in existence as a genre of programme for this. Anything can influence the outcome of an election, right, on its own merit, right? Yet, Ofcom said, he can do, he can do these programmes which are not news programmes, current affairs or chat shows. He can present chat shows. Or even, just whatever, but he can be a presenter, right? Wrong. It's wrong. Because he himself is becoming a household name and becoming a celebrity. And he is forming a relationship with electors. And electors in his own constituency as much as the rest of the country, right? And he's getting money for it. And that he's been put there with money and held there by money, which is not from the government, right? Yeah, he's working for government, right? And now, true, he could become unpopular for it, but why would he become unpopular for it? Well, because he's not meant to be doing it, and people kind of know that, right? But that's beside the point, right? The point is, in this act of law, it clearly states, as you can see, I've highlighted in blue, that you are not allowed to entertain the public, right? You can't entertain them. So, if it's not a news programme, and what are TV programmes there for? They were there for entertainment, right? It's not exactly the BBC to inform, educate, and entertain, right? Well, a news programme is to inform, right? Is Rees Mogg going to say it's there purely for, education? It's not there for entertainment or to inform you. It's only there to educate you. Well, they could do with educating us on his rights. Why aren't you telling us to write letters into the Speaker? To get letters when people are getting arrested for political actions. Why don't you educate us on some privileges? He's not educating us actually on anything. He's entertainment, and that is the same with Farage as well, and GB News. If it's not news, then what is it? Oh, we're just here to educate you. All right. I thought the news is current affairs and what's going on. It's like Loose Women. What is this show? Oh, is Loose Women entertainment? I don't think that they believe they're anything. Oh, no, we're not here to entertain you. We're not here to inform you. Well, what are you there for? I'd like to ask Ofcom and the Advertising Standards Agency, right? What is this? What is YouTube for now, right? What is television for? Because whatever it says, these people claim that they're not doing that. Oh, we're not here to inform you. We're not here to do the news. It's not news. It's not education. It's not information. Well, what the fuck is it? It seems like to me that it's nothing. They don't think that it is anything. They don't think that it's, you know, is it just spam then? Is it just trash? Is it just, you know, complete, utter, you know, 10 gigabytes of memory card filled with rubbish, things you've saved that you're never going to look at? Is it just a trash bin? Is it just chat magazine, spam, chat, rubbish, trash, GB News, scroll down the videos, here today, gone tomorrow, trash, 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 chat, 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 gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of, oh, one thing happened in 1 minute, in 1 second, you know, now it's Pete Lynch in prison, then it's Jeremy Corbyn, then it's this and that, you know, the highlight, the pinnacle of the moment, right, in a big trash compactor. Who's even going to watch that trash again? Well, as long as they're having a good time and they're popular and, you know, they've got a million viewers, you know, social media, we're popular. What's trending? We're trending. What is it then? Trendy. It's trendy. You know, it's fashion. It's not entertainment. It's fashion. It's trendy. It's a fashion show. Since when have MPs been in a fashion show? Unless it's Angela Rayner with a green dress on. It is entertainment. And not only that, Mogg's getting rewarded for it. He's getting rewarded for entertainment. And he's gambling on a very big casino wheel. Because it doesn't matter whether he wins an election or loses one, whether he's casino gambling, and it's a very big gambling wheel. It's a very big swing, because you can win or lose, right? It can affect yourself negatively, right? He's still gambling. He's on a gambling wheel. He's on. He's not meant to be on there at all. Right? He's not meant to be on there. Right? Ofcom. He's not meant to be on there. Because it's illegal. He's not meant to be gambling on there at all. Because it's illegal. Except if he gets, you know, there's one slot on there with a 0 on it in green. Right? On that whole, casino wheel, there's like one slot of the whole 360 degrees or whatever, right? And that is if he gets fucking invited on by a news programme to answer questions specifically. And you only get invited on if you're a member of the cabinet, although you do get invited on if you're an MP, actually. You do get invited on if you're an MP, like Jeremy Corbyn. But you're not meant to be getting a reward yourself, paid, and entertaining people. And that, it's actually a breach of privilege. It says that, well, the law, they made their rules up and they said that that's illegal for them to do it. So, and in Erskine May, it says that fraud and forgery is a breach of privilege. Well, he's forging, it's forgery because he's lying. He's forging the statement that he can do it. He said, I said, I can be on here, I can do this job. That's forgery. He's forging the statement that he's allowed to be on there. And so are Ofcom. Ofcom were the ones who were saying all along, no, it's not a news programme. It's not a news programme, right? Doesn't matter. It's just as bad. If it's not a news programme, it's fucking entertainment. And I've sworn, I wanted to do this whole video without swearing, right? Mogg is broke the law. And Ofcom have broke the law, and they're meant to be the regulators of it, right? And that is criminal in a massive way. And it's at the fingertips of these people now, right? Because of social media. Even Lawrence Fox as well, you know, because they're entertaining people, right? Now, I don't really care. It's not really an issue of the mobile phones and the culture and the ease of it, because it was abusable before. It was abusable in the newspapers. It was abusable by radio. It was abusable by television. But it was less abusable because they were being more strict. But they've just gone lax now. They've gone lax. They've like jumped in a swimming pool of sweeties. when they had some dignity and restraint, because there was a BBC gentleman there going, "Oh, I'm sorry, children, you've had too many sweeties now. You've got to follow the rules." But now it's just gone. They're just gone. It's like everyone's got a little sweet factory in their own at the fingertips. And it's the attitude of the MPs, the lies, the absolute pure lies, and the fact that some of them actually, I think that they're trying to believe that they're innocent. They're trying to themselves convince themselves they're not breaking the law, like Rachel Reeves. Oh, I'm just a librarian woman from Leeds, a normal lady. I'm not into this ragamuffin, ragabond stuff. I'm just a normal plain woman. I don't have any ill intent. No, you've been groomed by Keir Starmer. You've been groomed into a charlatan gang. The craze, like the Peaky Blinders, because they've groomed you and they say, no, this is perfectly okay. No, you shouldn't be touching that child in the genitals. Oh, I'm sorry, that's illegal, right? No, you shouldn't be doing all those advertisements, Rachel. You shouldn't be putting those out on your YouTube channel now that you're elected into government. You shouldn't be trying to influence people in voting, particularly in by-elections. Rees Mogg shouldn't be being paid £135,000 a second or whatever it is on GB News, because he's entertaining people for a reward of money, which is affecting his the politics of it. And it's nothing to do whether he's a member of the cabinet or not. He's a serving MP, and it affects his next election. And this is the same thing with Nigel Farage and Tice, unfortunately, as well, like them or not. It's fact. And the whole reclaim the media thing, it's almost like a protest. It's like, effectively, Parliament have got a few MPs and government say, oh, we'll have a little rebellion and see if we can, see if we can convince the public that this is perfectly all right to do, when it's actually not, right? By somehow abbreviating or redacting the legislation. But you aren't redacting it. It's got a meaning. It's got a purpose. And that purpose is calculated through cause and effect. It's through cause and effect, like a chemical experiment in a science lab, right? And that is that all this is already worked out logically through the laws of cause and effect. What affects the outcomes of this and that, right? When you pour chemicals into a compound, which reacts with them? Oxygen, helium, hydrogen, whatever, they react, right? So if you have got a giving treats out to your electors, there's a reaction there. They go in your favour, right? If you entertain them, they go in your favour, right? This is cause and effect. It's not something that you legislate in or out or tinker around with in the law, in the wording of the law, because it's the same thing. It's in the Representation of the People Act. It's called election propaganda, and the exact wording of it is things that affect the outcome of elections or are capable of. And entertainment is one of those things, right? You can't say it isn't when it is, right? It's like, what are the things that are capable of getting wet if you throw water on them, right? Paper, wood, right? This is the thing. What are the things that are capable of affecting electors, right? In elections, entertainment, right? This is the thing. So Mogg has severely broken the law. And Mogg needs to have his knighthood removed from the forfeiture committee in Parliament, because the Culture, Media and Sport Committee themselves were also lying with having Ofcom in front of them live on camera, because those MPs on the committee also wanted to reclaim the media, but they just wanted to try and attempt to con us all, charlatans, redefine the public's understanding of what's acceptable or not. You can't redefine the science of chemistry, right? You cannot redefine the science of cause and effect. That means that, you want to make it so that when sailboats, if you want to redefine the chemistry of cause and effect, or the kinetics of it, then let's have a wind farm and let's watch the wind farm be completely useless because it's not catching any wind, right? That's funny. There's a 50 mile an hour gale force wind here. Why are the wind turbines not spinning round? Oh, because we're defying the laws of physics. Look at this, right? Somehow, this government, when it suits them, when they want to cheat like criminals, cheat so cheatingly, cheat, that no one could cheat anymore. They're so cheating that no one could be more corrupt. No one could be cheating more, right? It does cause the effect and influence it, right? Entertainment, this is it. So, it's criminal, and there's no privileges for that. None, right?